Welcome, welcome, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Adventures with Truth. And today we're gonna take things lightly. You know, as I said, first few episodes have been kind of crazy, so let's chill for a while. But first, let's talk about the main news that something that happened this week, and it was kind of crazy. I woke up and I just saw that all over the news there was something about parliament attack going on, संसद पे attack हुआ है and everything. And it got my curiosity. I was like, holy shit, man, what the fuck did happen? Because there were, right, some crazy people, some maniacs, you know, naming one such people would be Pannu. This crazy motherfucker is sitting in Canada and making threats and everything. He had made a threat and everything, that we are gonna attack the parliament before the what 13th December, which is the anniversary of the original attack, which happened, I think, back in 2002. And yeah, so my mind immediately went running, and then I saw everything that what had happened. To put it, to give you like a gist of it, what happened was basically four wild monkeys, that's right, four baboons, somehow got their hands on a smoke canister, or rather a bunch of smoke canisters, and they made their way into the parliament, during a live session, that is. So of course they went through all the security checks that, well, alleged security checks which are supposed to be there, but I don't think they are there right now. So yeah, they were able to sneak these smoke canisters inside. Maybe, I think somebody had one tucked in their shoe. Some retarded, this one of these crazy monkeys might even had a smoke canister up their assholes, man. We don't know. Did we check? For these monkeys, I think cops should check, Maybe they have a grenade up their asshole. Maybe these people are, maybe from originally the continent of Africa. They could be carrying some crazy diseases, right? Ebola has come out of there. So it could have been a, bioweapon attack too. And even, as I saw the video, a bunch of these goons, or rather maniacs, we can even call them terrorists. These terrorists were moving through the, building inside, and there was no security. Even when the, smoke started covering up in the air, it was like a yellow smoke, I think I saw. Crazy. Fucking insane. It looked like a mushroom cloud, when these fungi and mushroom, some of them, when they try to spread their seeds or pores, they burst. And when these spores and fungi burst, all the spores, which are often yellow colored, they are spread into the air, and they kind of look like that yellow smoke bomb these terrorist monkeys were using. Yeah, I mean, we gotta treat them as terrorists, because somebody who does an attack on parliament in a live session, I mean, holy shit. First of all, I mean, lately the government and people in general have been giving me the notion that India as a whole is going towards, improved security of the citizens. The civilians are supposed to be much safer these days, right? The borders are supposed to be much more secured and tightly monitored and everything. For the most part, the privacy of the individual as a whole is going down, right? Most people are being tracked, all the payments are getting digital. The cars are always, getting all the electronic speeding tickets and everything right now. So it's a brave new world. But apparently it's not a safe new world. We still have all the shortcomings of our predecessors. Don't seem to be able to overcome these obstacles, or even these tiny paper cuts, right? These paper cuts which bleed the entire organism. And in the end, most animals who live in the wild, they don't really die in the fights. They die from the infections, these small wounds that they develop over time. And these, of course, animals don't have any kind of medicine or antibiotics. So they succumb to these injuries. And that's what happens here too, right? These small paper cuts, these small gaps in our security, the miscommunication, or rather the lack of communication among all the teams and all the armed personnel that there is, it can, often lead to disasters. And this could have been a disaster. I mean, holy shit, right? The enemies of India would very much have used this opportunity to do some damage. Luckily, it was just smoke, but shit. I really think we should, treat this as an act of terrorism. hmm And on top of that, if you guys are familiar, that last year, I think, in January 6th, right, there was a attack on the American White House as well. Similarly, like a bunch of lunatic people tried to storm the Capitol building, and they were even, allegedly let in by some guards or some cops, and they made their way into the building. They even start, I think, beating or harassing some of the officials or leaders there. So what happened there, right? All those people were treated as what? Excuse me. They were trialed for all their crimes, and they're getting sentenced to what? 20 years in jail, 15 years in jail. That ought to teach these people, man. Put these fucking monkeys. I mean, we shouldn't even put monkeys in a jail, because, of course, these people have not shown any sign of humanity. These are just crazy people. I mean, what the hell are they thinking? What the hell are these crazy people thinking? Is this supposed to be a message? Because it is supposed to be, I don't know, some sort of a message that we stand against it or we're protesting or something. But holy shit, this coordinated attack seems like it took a lot of planning. I think some of the ministers who allowed these people to grant them access, because that's the thing. The Sansas actually have to, give them permission that this so and so visitor is under my permission, or they're with me. So give them a pass or an access, grant them permission to sit in the live session and, make notes. Maybe they are students, they're journalists. So yeah, students have actually gone crazy in this country, I feel like. The students are not only starting to become, puppets of the people who are spreading propaganda against the nation, but they are actually making things hard for the people who are actually trying to do something. I mean, one of these, I think, monkeys who attacked the parliament was a woman, this crazy bitch. I saw her screaming. She was chanting, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, while, of course, a lady police officer was dragging her away. I mean, I would even say that the lady police officer was kind of being too nice. I mean, she should have been dragging this crazy bitch by her hair. I mean, that's a terrorist. We should not take lightly to terrorism. Of course, even if they are female terrorists, we gotta still, give them all the justice they deserve in the name of equality. Of course, that's what they need, that's what they want, that's what they ask for. Give them equality. Yeah. I should even say that, we should even consider death sentences for female terrorists. Because if the crime is actually heinous enough, or it is such a severe crime that we would allot the death sentence to somebody like Kasab, then we should, even consider the same for female terrorism or terrorists. But of course, there are not a lot of those, luckily, thankfully. But yeah. So yeah, and before I digress further, as she was saying, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, and I was thinking, yeah, I agree with the statement being, long live this country, Mother India, sure, all hail. But if, but the thing is, the concept of Mother India is kind of theoretical concept. When you look from space, if you were an alien, maybe you were sitting on the moon and you were watching Earth, so you don't see India, right? You just see a mass of land upon this giant body of water which we call Indian Ocean, which is shaped like a V, and it has a dot beneath it, which which is goes by the name Sri Lanka. So, but of course, the people, the society, the ones who live on this mass of land, that's what make the concept or the idea of countries. And then of course everybody living in a particular piece of area will have their own countries, concepts, culture. You know how it goes. I hope you do. If not, we'll talk about it some other day. So this idea, of course, now I'm definitely behind this idea, but if it was more than an idea, what if the entire continent was alive, the entire Indian subcontinent? If Bharat Mata was actually like a living, breathing female who would walk here and there like a majestic spirit doing her thing, she would actually be so fucking sad to see these are the kind of creatures that she is giving birth to. These are the creatures who are being carried in her womb for 9 months, and that's what they come out and do. In the name of Bharat Mata, they try to attack the fucking parliament in a sitting live session just to send a message or to show, that how weak our system is at the moment, how we are not seeing these small paper cuts which can make us bleed in the long run. So we gotta be careful for that. Mm-hmm. It's not, just that. I would even go so far as to say that Bharat Mata, if she knew that these are the kind of people that she's gonna give birth to, she would have probably have an abortion. Yeah. I mean, she would even might have her entire uterus removed if she knew this is what her children are gonna do. That they're gonna become terrorists and they're gonna attack the fucking parliament. Holy fucking shit. Yeah. These are the, these are the people who should have been aborted. Yep. Maybe this is actually, a big point or a argument from the side of sex education. Of course, nobody is a stranger to how poor sex education is in India, despite the fact we have, a booming population. But we gotta, teach people that, sometimes you should get an abortion, not only to control the population, but if you're gonna grow a terrorist, if you're not gonna be able to, take care of a child, give them proper education, basic facts, basic level of ethics, then what kind of things they should do, what they should not do. So yeah, I think हर घर जल योजना के बाद now we should implement हर घर condom योजना. Of course, because we the Indian people, we are no stranger to fucking. We love fucking. Here, there, everywhere. Indians love fucking. From the Kashmir, the beautiful valleys of Kashmir, to the scenic, tranquil and serene environment of Kanyakumari. From the run of Kutch to the far northeastern hills of Arunachal Pradesh. Indians love to fuck. And as a process of this biological beauty that is sex, we often give rise to such creatures, such stupid people. I mean, these unemployed people have been, I'm sure, sucking up our country's resources for such a long time. They're playing at the hands of our enemies in name of making a statement. Holy fucking shit. Mr. Modi said something along the lines of ये बड़ा चिंताजनक विषय है, इसे गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए. Which I think, being the leader of a country, he's just being polite. I'm sure in his heart he wanted to say Mar bench. But of course, right? You gotta maintain. Unlike me, I'm just, trying to go on an adventure with the truth and see how far I can go without, of course, getting lost. So before I get digress, let's talk about something else. You know, I was watching the news, of course. Surprise, surprise. Watching the news before doing a podcast. How original. Well, at least I'm not reading off of anything. It's purely extempore. If you know, you know. So I saw in the news that, after a long time, Mr. Putin has got his swagger back. That's what media is saying. That's how they're putting it. That's the kind of vernacular they're using. But yeah, it suits the situation right now. Because I would say, Vladimir Putin is, despite all of his flaws and all of his qualities, he is a charismatic guy. He's sharp, he's witty, he's, always aware of the history, always have all the facts on his fingertips. And he's not shy to throw punches, right? He tries to keep things real and everything. Of course, the media has to play along in Russia, but still. So what he did recently was he went on a show. I think it's kind of a press conference. And he does this press conference like every year, right? It's an annual thing. And last year, amidst the Ukraine war, of course, last year they were not in a great position. So he didn't do the conference. But now, if you've heard the news of late, the Ukraine is not getting any more weapons. America is starting to turn away. The Europe is said that they've had enough. They cannot supply anymore weapons to Ukraine because they, of course, cannot keep this war going on and on forever. And that's what Russia always wanted. That's what Russia has done always. Be it in World War One, World War Two, they've got a huge area in an extreme environment. And usually before, of course, they had sacrificed all their young population in soldiers and army, but they've always had a long standing army. So they can just wait it out, sit it out, keep throwing more bodies at you, and sooner or later you're gonna lose. Of course, Adolf Hitler tried to bet against that. He thought that sooner or later we're gonna get you and we're gonna kill so many of you that you're gonna give up and surrender. That's what Poland did, that's what Finland did, and yeah, I think even that's what France did. But when they went to Russia, holy shit. When they went to Russia, they saw that you don't fuck with Mother Russia. Just like you don't fuck with Mother India. And yeah, they were annihilated. They kept killing it, but the Russians just didn't stop. The affinity, or rather the endurance, that the Russian people have shown to withstand hardship, struggle, misery, and all the horrors of war, it was simply unprecedented. The Nazi Germany had never seen such thing. And yeah, eventually they lost and Russia prevailed, which is great. Otherwise, the Nazi Germany would have been way bigger and harder to defeat. Who knows what could have happened then? Holy shit. So yeah, that's the thing about Russia. And Putin was hoping that this strategy which has worked for Russia for about a century now. So they are, of course, reliant on this strategy a whole lot. Although even they are facing a loss of demographic, even the population is going down there. Less babies are being born, and even the people who live there are, moving out of Russia. They're moving to other countries. It started during the war. So we don't know how long can Russia or Putin use this strategy, but for now it's worked. And so, of course, right now the tide of the war is turning, and Putin is, he's got his swagger back. He did this 4-hour long media press thing where, of course, there are two interviewers, 2 or 3. One was a guy, one was a lady. And they were asking him questions and everything, and he was saying how the war is going, how the world is going, economy is going, and everything. He's also recently made a lot of good statements about PM Modi, that PM Modi does not get pushed around. Cannot fuck around with Modi, or even Amit Shah for that matter. So yeah, that's what happened. You know, it makes me wonder how would Mr. Putin have reacted had some people perpetrated into their parliament with a smoke bomb or any kind of weapon. You can be damn sure that these people would never be seen again. Yeah, these people, whoever these people, the fucking monkeys were, these loose baboons who tried to climb the Capitol thinking it's a fucking jungle, but it's not. We live in a civilized society. You do that, you should be tried for terrorism or even treason. Because who knows what it could have been. We don't, think about what the result was. We often take into account the motive, the incentive, and the intent of crime while doing such a thing. And had these people, broken into the castle, it's a castle in Moscow, the parliament or the president's house, the main building, it's a fucking castle. It's quite old. I think it's sustained from old Soviet Union or even older than that. And had these people, done some shit like that in Russia, yeah. That's why people don't try to do stunts like this in Russia. Because Russia does not take these things lightly. Which again, shows that we Indians, try to maintain or have a higher moral ground. And I agree with it. You should try to be just, try to do things for a cause. But still, often we have to pay the price for it. You have to sacrifice way more than your enemy. That's what we did in the war of 1965. We gave up some land we shouldn't have on orders of politicians. Politicians always, get in the way of progress. You can't let the public be. If you look across history, politicians or government or the state should only be a provider of things, right? We give you security, you will not be attacked. If you are stuck somewhere, we'll come out for you, we'll reach out for you, we'll get you home, which is something, of course, India is actually proudly doing and very capable at doing. They bring their citizens home, even if you're trapped in some other country. That bring in, infrastructure for foreign investment, economy and everything, whatever the population needs, be it agriculture and everything, employment, education, healthcare. But aside of these things, government should not be involved in anything. Because of course, for government is, I think, one of the least efficient ways to get anything done. They should only be regulators and, make things up. Like we see, there's a giant boom in IT industry going on in India right now. It's also happening across the world, but of course, India is leading the growth and transformation in IT industry. But where is all that IT industry coming from? It's not the government that is creating all these jobs. It's the private companies, right? Two big names are, of course, TCS and Infosys. Shout out to Murthy. Have you seen my episode yet? I hope you do, before the clock checks you out. Anyways, so yeah, those are two companies, and of course there are other giants: Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. So these are the companies or the venues which create jobs. And now government wants to get involved in everything, but their own security, even their own security. This should actually, this attack should open our eyes. It should, in a way, I think it's good that this attack happened without, any kind of major harm or any loss of life. Because it does, gives us an opportunity to see that we have a gap in the security system, or how easy could it be for adversaries to break into our system, our parliament, where our leaders could be sitting. I mean, I think we are lucky that PM Modi wasn't there. Yeah, but the wannabe PM Modi was there. Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Gandhi. You can, yeah, doing there, standing, just, I don't know, trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. So yeah, Putin did this debate, and sometimes I feel like that, the way they do things in America, we should learn something from that. They have these presidential debates where both the candidates are, moderated by an interviewer, a journalist, or a host, TV host, or a news anchor or something, and they ask them questions. Maybe we should do something about, something of that order in India too. Maybe we should just sit down, Mr. Modi, and I guess Mr. Rahul Gandhi is the candidate from Congress's side to be the PM. Not that he's at he's, I would say, the right man for the job, in my humble opinion, of course. But maybe we should sit both these guys down. First of all, we should make them grow the longest beard they can grow, and then we see who looks the badass. I'm sure, I'm sure that our current Prime Minister Modi will look much more badass. But we can see that. Let let them. I would say give them 6 months, 5 to 6 months to let their beards grow all the way it can, go berserk, and then we should have a beard competition. After that, we should sit them down just like I'm sitting right now on a chair or right across the table, and let them talk it out. Prove to us through a conversation that how you are a smarter man, or whoever is the smarter man, and show us what are the things that you claim for, how you're gonna do it, and let the other person counter it. You can of course have a bunch of team. It could be like one of those child quizzing shows where they have a bunch of kids, they all have a team, they're a bunch of teams, and they are throwing questions at them, and whoever answers the most question, that's the team that wins. So we can do something like that. Yeah, just imagine for a second, the NDA or the BJP government. The BJP government, which is Modi, Mr. Amit Shah, Shankar bro, yeah, the smart bro, the serious intellectual. Have these three guys, and then you're gonna have Rahul Gandhi, and I guess, next would be Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, maybe his sister or some other guy, and we should, have a quiz and see who's in the sound mind, who makes more sense, who can actually get their point across in a logical, reasoning way. They should not just, make promises in the air. हवा में महल बनाने वाले देश में लोग बहुत हैं, असली में महल पे लोग तोड़ ही रहे हैं, पुराने तो टूट चुके हैं. So yeah, let's not dwell in the past too much, although we should bring our past back. And I'm not just talking about the monuments and building temples. I'm talking about the actual knowledge, like the knowledge which was in Ayurveda, or all the Purans, Ved Purans, Sutras, Kama Sutras. We should bring back all that knowledge, use it to make sure that we head in the right direction, we give birth to right people, and we punish the people when they do something really terrible. Yeah. Speaking of doing terrible things, I've been seeing that, especially in the regions across the Delhi NCR, cops and police paraphernalia have been using modern equipment to, catch criminals. Like, for instance, I think people or police in Gurgaon are using drones, drones to, I think, catch criminals and everything. Somebody runs away from the cops, they can, use that drone to spot that car, chase it, arrest them, whatever, give them a ticket, fine, chalan walan kaat lo, sure. But the way I see it, I mean, wherever I'm living, Right. Right now I'm living in Delhi. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever that is, I don't mind. In Delhi, I don't actually see, crime going down particularly. Like I've seen a lot of cars getting stolen in the neighborhood. There are some cops patrolling, but the general consensus I don't think is that Delhi is getting a safer place. Rather, you see a lot of crime happening, especially in the trans side of Delhi. But when it comes to crimes where somebody has a opportunity or a ulterior motive to make some money on the side, those crimes are being caught quite frequently, which is of course not the right message you want to send to the public. Because of course these things, people being caught, they do send a message, but has know the common man started to feel any bit safer? There is some marginal improvement, don't get me wrong, not to be all pessimistic on this, but given that people are losing so much of their, you know, choices, abilities, the market is acting weird and everything. Are we moving towards a progressive and liberal society? That's the question. Now, of course, everybody wants to live in a crime free world. But I'm here to ask you a question. Do you really, really want to live in a truly crime free world? A world where there is no crime at all? Because I don't think people actually, understand what it means to live in a world where there is no crime at all. Because how do you do that? Life is not fair. There will always be somebody who is in a tough situation, be it emotionally, financially, and they're pressed to do, I don't know, some kind of petty crime and everything. But what happened to the criminal? Do you shoot them? Or do you send them away for life? Or do you introduce such a high, heinous crime punishment that nobody dares to do it? In which case, you can make a society like North Korea, which is, of course, not something that we want. I hope not. So, what is this about, idea of having no crime? I think there should be, of course, a balance. Because in a state or in a world where law becomes a draconian measure to control the population, crime might be the only thing which has the potential to revive human spirit. I'm sure if somebody was North Korean, even doing the basic activities which we consider normal, regular part of our day to day life, is considered to be a criminal. Yeah, having hair like I do. You see my hair? Yeah, they're kind of long right now, especially from the behind. Having a hair like this is criminal in some places. Now, of course, that's not to say that we should learn anything from these places, but we should take a note that often hoping for an ideal world will get you in trouble. Because people, and I have been also guilty of that, but people, we do love to hear about or even imagine about our fantasies, think about things, discuss about our dreams or how we would create an ideal world. If we could run this simulation, have the control of the entire thing just for a day or two, how would we run things? But nobody thinks about the execution. How do you reach an ideal world? Do we really, really want to get rid of all crime? Has nobody ever smoked a cigarette where it said no smoking? Have you never skipped a red light at 2 in the morning where there's not a single car in sight, but the red light is telling you to stop, and you're sitting there like a stupid monkey? And that's how you become a monkey which attacks the parliament, because the monkey just stops using its brain. The monkey sees there's no car around. There's not a single soul around. It's 2 in the morning or 2 in the night, but the light is red. So the monkey stays. And that's how we start to program the human monkey with red light, then green light. Maybe we should add some more lights right now. How about this? You got all the lights. It's a fucking disco in here right now. महफिल बैठ जाएगी. So yeah, that's something to think about. Has nobody ever, I'm sure if you live in India and you have ridden a scooty, you've ridden without helmet. Now should there be a 10 lakh rupee fine for riding without a helmet? Of course not. The only way we can, hope for a better society is through education, through information, through free discussion, dialogue, and bouncing ideas, discussing new perspectives, new thoughts. But that does not mean that we should hope for a completely ideal world, because often, getting to an ideal world has led to genocide in our history. Might I remind you that Nazi Germany was hoping for an ideal world, and in their mind, an ideal world would not have Jewish people, or I would say even any other people which are not Christians. They would not have anybody who's a millionaire or billionaire. They would take all the resources, and ideally, state would divide all the resources among all the people equally. Now, of course, any smart man would understand that if somebody is dividing the pie, then they will have a fair advantage of taking the bigger piece of the pie, because they are the ones controlling everything. So how do you solve this problem? The solution is you gotta give everybody equal opportunity. Because to take all the resources, what did have, all the communist and all the socialist governments done in the past? How do you take the land and resources? You have to essentially go on a mass genocide, start shooting everybody. Walk up to somebody, ask them, can I take entire land and all the property you own, all the food you have, all the grains you're growing, all your women, all your kids? And if they dare say no, you can shoot them in the head. That's how you reach an ideal world. And it's also a philosophical situation, I think. If you think about philosophy on these terms, maybe the ideal world does not exist, and it should not exist. It must not exist, because the execution to get to an ideal world is just filled with bloodshed. And not even to discuss that what is actually a truly, absolutely ideal world. Because if you go around asking people what do they think is the ideal situation and how things should happen, I'm sure you'll get as many different opinions as stars in the galaxy, which is probably more than the people on Earth. That should point out the fact that a lot of people don't even understand the things they're saying, and their opinions often lead to paradoxes. They contradict each other. So, whose ideal world should we want to live in? Now, don't get me wrong. When I see crazy people driving on the road and when they are actually acting like a threat towards other people, they should, of course, be given, big fines. Their license should be taken away for, a few months, even a year. But if somebody who does not have the means to upgrade their vehicle, and God forbid, they're going from A place to B place smoothly without causing any accident, they're driving their car, but their just car so happens to be more than a certain years old, you can be slapped with a 10,000 rupee fine. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay. I drink to that. Drinking not as in cheers to that, but holy shit, I need to have a drink with that. Even if it's just good old sweet, gentle water. I think water is becoming an occurring theme on this show. What can I say? It's most of me is water. Most of what comes out of me is water. Be it through my breath or through the peace. Peace. That's right. Yeah, that's what I think about it. That we should not aim for a society where there is no crime. We should aim for a society where there is no violent crime, or even a society where all the so-called victimless crimes or small things that people do here and there should be let go. Yeah, but of course, on other hand, if you increase the law and everything, you need lot more people to enforce that law. You need lot more policemen. And of course, right now we are not doing a great job of hiring good individuals in our forces. We have had a lot of corruptions, cases of corruption, right? Be it money, sexual assault, harassment, and everything. Cops have been, of course, as guilty as the criminals have been, on charges as diverse as the criminals have been. So, getting new and more people of such mindset into the armed forces, giving them a gun and a badge, might not be the best thing to do. Unless we can, of course, increase the general mindset and bandwidth and knowledge of the common Indian man. Because right now, what I personally feel is that the common Indian man, your average man, is disturbingly stupid. Yeah. Takes me a second to even find the words. I stutter. They're disturbingly stupid. And don't forget, half of them even are more stupid than that. So, before we start jumping around, we should make sure all these small paper cuts which we have on our body, which we have bleeding right now, they're all patched up, sealed up, treated, stitched, before we become the golden bird and start flying here and there. Yeah, that's what's up. What else is going on in the world? What else? Recently I was listening to Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. He did a podcast recently, and he brought this thing up, right, which kind of ties to our thing of taking flight like a golden bird, of this idea. And I want to discuss this idea before I go. There's this idea that sometimes I hear in the general public, right? People are complaining that we are launching all these space missions and everything, all these Chandrayans and Adityas and Suryans, but we are not even solving the problem of crime here. We are not even solving the problem of unemployment here. To that, let me tell you something, people. Now, one of the ways that we are tackling the crimes of financial crimes related to money, taxes, and everything is we are digitizing everything, right? So, what is digitization? We are basically using the internet to store all the information, where the money is, who owns the money, who has what amount of money and everything. And that's what we're doing through this electronic medium. But eventually, or rather originally, internet was basically meant for warfare. It was essentially a tool which the armies would use to communicate within each other. That's what the purpose was essentially in the beginning. But then as technology evolved, it got down to people, right? It became a thing which was a household thing. Everybody has internet, and of course most people who live in a civilization today cannot even imagine a life without internet. But it was basically a tool, right? Which was meant for something else. But now then it became a thing which basically everybody thinks as a utility. It's not even a luxury anymore. Internet, I would say, is like having water and electricity. It's an essential utility that you have to live in this world. Because, of course, nobody is trying to be a caveman here. At least not in this my spaceship right now. So yeah. And similarly, GPS is right. Yet another something, yet another, I would say, advantage, a product, or a service which was awarded to humanity. Once it was kinda useless for all the industrial purposes, and then that became GPS, which used to be a network to track all the supplies, gears, keep track of the enemy and everything, which became our GPS. Now everybody uses GPS every day. There are basically industries built upon the use of location and what maneuverability, showing ways. Entire giant companies like Uber and Ola, they have been built on these things. And technology does, I think, help us to take care of crime. It helps us essentially you know bypass the limitations of human communication. A person can lie, but a digital signature would not, right? So these things, these technologies, they enable us to solve the problems that we have right now. Who knows if India goes to some asteroid and we discover, holy shit, there's this giant pool of water, and somehow ISRO can figure out how to bring this asteroid safely back to Earth, and we can have a giant, ocean of water, clean, fresh water. Maybe we could land it on top of Kailash, just like old school big man did it himself, right? So they say. I'm not religious, but that's what they say, right? He brought all the water down. So once again, we could, you know, try to merely mimic the stories that we have heard, the cool stories. I mean, yeah, I do think there are some of the coolest stories about history and mythology are based upon the Indian context. They sure know, at least knew back in the day, how to make a cool story. So yeah, maybe that's what we can do. We can bring down all the asteroid, and that will solve our problem of water down to Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Who knows? Because making the argument that you cannot go into space without solving all the problems of the earth, it's just like saying that you cannot leave the cave that you live in to get resources from outside. Must you should first follow and solve all the steps that you know for all the problems that you have right now in the cave. Be it you're looking for food, water, firewood. First, you should follow on, not follow, solve all the problems within the cave. And then you should leave the cave and think about things and all the ventures that lie outside. But anybody, I think, in the right mind would be able to deduce that this is not how things work. Often you are not present in a situation where you have all the resources, so you need to get them for yourselves from outside. Yeah, as the space industry grows, it makes me think on the topic of crime, what kind of cyber, or rather space, stellar crime are we gonna have? I'm sure there are gonna be some industrial crimes that's gonna take place. Like, of course, a lot of countries or companies, a lot of companies pollute the environment. They do not follow the protocols, and a lot of countries such as China, they look the other way, and as a result they pollute way more than the next 5 6 countries combined. And yeah, people look the other way. People see to rather appear to have a moral code or a set of guidelines that they would follow, but they don't. So makes you wonder, right? Some agency could go to this asteroid in the near future when humanity has become you know grown beyond Earth. We have taken over the entire solar system. A company could be like, hey, government or whatever the governing body is, give us the permit. We're gonna mine this asteroid for you. They're gonna get there, and they're gonna bring back some, I don't know, precious minerals. They're gonna give some to the government. They're gonna keep them some for themselves. Maybe sell it on the black market. Who knows? Who knows, man? So yeah, I mean, I don't think crime is gonna go away, but I really hope that the kind of crime which actually matters goes away. And because now it's not to say that there are no countries where, you know, crime doesn't exist, because there are some countries, for instance, UAE and Saudi Arabia, they have very little crime over there. For, I mean, the general people I'm talking about. The government, of course, they are very pro crime. They do whatever the fuck they want, man. They run that shit like it's their own personal bitch, and they can slap that ass whenever they want. But for the people, yeah, you cannot commit much crime, at least unless you know somebody in the power. So, how do, Saudi Arabia and UAE deal with the crime situation that's going on there? Now, of course, they have very harsh and severe punishments. For instance, if you, I think, steal something, you might even, get your hands chopped off. Now, I think that's part of Quran or Sharia law, or I think the Islamic law which they follow. But it is, kinda crazy. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. There are some benefits to it, because I think I've been to Dubai once, long back, and it's actually kind of relieving to know that you can just leave your money on the counter here and there. Even if you lose something, you drop something, nobody's gonna steal it, right? If you leave money on the table, you go to, you leave your room, the room service comes and cleans it, you can be sure that whatever you left there, all the money, the change, your gadgets, your ornament, jewelry, everything will be there. So the experience itself is quite fascinating and relieving, I would say, right? You're not worried about your belongings. Because if you go back to the jungle days, back when we as monkey used to, live in the forest, we were, not ever in a situation where we could make sure that our belongings will be safe. Whatever you have to keep it to yourself. And if you, put it somewhere, some other monkey or some other creature, maybe some other tribe is gonna come and take all your supplies. So if crime goes as far back as to the jungle monkey, before, I would say, even before we even took our this current form of the Homo sapiens sapien. So crime has been around, right? Tigers steal their prey. Lions do. Hyenas, of course, are infamous for it. So crime, these ethics, now they are a standard that the human animal should hold itself up to. But we should remember that you're all filled with flaws, and a victimless crime should not actually even be charged with, or people should be given, I think, just a fine or a warning and just let go, right? But I think all this conversation that I'm having, we need to at least grow up 10 years to be able to work in the directions which I'm talking about right now. So who is it for? Hmm? Who's the audience? Who are you? Smart, intellectual, beautiful, lovely people who are listening. Is it for you? Are you living in the future? Are these ideas on actual, true center right or liberal progressivism making sense to you? Or am I just rambling? Luckily, rambling is not a crime. At least not in India. Holy shit. If I was in some other country, or if you people were in some other country, things could have been really bad. Or in some other countries, crime might have been the only life you can get to choose. There are some places where, to ensure the odds of survival, a life of crime is the only thing you should ought to choose if you are in that situation, because a lot of people don't even get to be in that situation. So what do you do then? Well, you become the prey. and the criminals become the hunters, the predators. That's the law of the nature. Big fucks the small. Big fucks the small. Big fucks the small. There's a ring to it. Can you catch it? So, to the people who think or believe that the only smooth criminal we should have is Michael Jackson's music track, I say no. I don't hope for such an ideal, pure world. I hope for a world which has some crime in it here and there. Hopefully, I'm not, affected by it or causing it or doing it. But we should, reform the things before we ensure that we are following all the laws that we have created. We must first ensure that all of these laws does make sense with all the information and scientific developments, technological know-how that we have today. Now, if some people have been following the news carefully, you might see that India has had Indian Penal Code as its law structure ever since British left, and it is basically a version of the way British did things. And now people are, of course, right, changing. The central government has introduced a somewhat similar situation of law. Some new laws have been added, some have been abandoned or abolished. They're naming it Nyay Sena Sabha something. I'm blanking on the name right now, but for the most part, I don't think there have been some changes, in the way we do things. Some, I think, laws have been updated to keep up with the world today, but I don't see much of a change in structures, or rather laws of the country which were taken from other countries. There are some laws in our penal code which does not actually even have any relevance in India, or the way they are implemented is ironical, if not goddamn outrageous itself, right? And I'm gonna do a whole episode on it, so hold your breath for that one. But there are some laws that, given the way we do things, what's the part of ancient Bharatiya culture, be it the Hindu culture, there are things that our civilization has been doing for a long time, and still today it's considered to be a crime to do that as per the new law, because of course the remains of the British rule over India still haunt us to this day, more than 75 years later. God damn, these fucking Brits. These fucking Brits, mate. Is that how they talk? These goddamn morons. Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Let's see how things goes. Let's see how people start to think differently of crime. Yeah, because first of all, we should not, glorify or empower crime or in any way. Drinking and driving is one of the fucking things which I'm really, really pissed off about. Because that's something you see really a lot in the city, and that is not a crime I take lightly too. Of course, I'm not talking about somebody who's just had one beer or two beer. I'm not saying they should go to jail, but there are people who are just outright drunk, cannot even walk, and these motherfuckers are pacing down the streets. I mean, sometimes I go into the balcony at night when it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I can even hear the car before they reach my house, before they, cross my house in front of the road. I can hear them. They're coming by so fast, and I'm just praying that, there's nobody, no dog, no creature, no cyclist standing in the street, because these motherfuckers are not going to be able to stop. Oh no. They're going to hit the person, and the person is probably going to land on moon. Yeah. Chanda Mama pe, you're going to put that person. So, yeah, these kind of things should, of course, be punished. Acts of terrorism in the country should be punished. Somebody is smoking a cigarette where he shouldn't be. Give me a break. Give the man a break. Right? Somebody is taking a photograph where they say selfie or photography is not allowed. Unless it's a military infrastructure or something, give the man a break. Let them take a fucking selfie. A monkey is trying to get home to his family, get to sleep before he has to go back to the job or the slave work that he has to do tomorrow. And if he is sitting there at 2 in the night in front of a red light with not a single car in sight, give the man green light to go. Let's not let technology fuck us over. Give the man a break. Give, of course, give criminals their due. Give hard, violent criminals their due. But give people a break. Yeah. Take a break, people. Take it easy. And I'll see you next time.